What's your favorite scary movie? Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be taking a look at the 1996 movie Scream and the effects it had on the horror genre in the 90s. Or, for lack of a better term, how it ruined horror movies in the 90s. Before we get into the bloodbath, if you're into the 90s, be sure to click on the iCard or the link below to get our magazine on the top 100 decade-defining movie moments of the 90s. The 60s had Norman Bates, the 70s had Michael Myers, and the 80s had Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees. Yes, with these and countless other horror movie icons throughout the decades, the slasher genre was running stale on fresh ideas by the time it came to the 90s. Enter Scream, a slasher flick so original it ruined the whole genre. Director Wes Craven, previously known for bringing to life horror classics such as A Nightmare on Elm Street and The Hills Have Eyes, saw a new direction for the genre by the turn of the 1990s. With the overabundance of the same old horror cliches, the genre needed something new, something that would re-spark the fans' love for these films. They needed to become self-aware. While he experimented with adding an extra layer in New Nightmare, Craven would perfect the idea of the metafilm with 1996's Scream.
Sex equals death, okay? Number 2. You can never drink or do drugs.
The metafilm, which got its start in the world of literature under the name metafiction, refers to the idea of an author, or in this case a director, constantly reminding the viewer that they're watching a film. Early examples of this type of storytelling are found in the work of Charlie Chaplin and of Chuck Jones, whose Looney Tunes short Duck Amuck showcases this concept perfectly.
It may come as a complete surprise to you to find that this is an animated cartoon.
Bringing it back to horror, it's the thing that turns a moment like this into something that looks a little more like this.
This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life.
Take the iconic opening scene, for example. On the surface, this scene plays out like your typical slasher kill. But Craven is completely changing the way we think about horror here. Slasher movie trivia serves as the backbone to Casey Becker's death, as she's asked to answer questions about canonized slasher films to survive.
Name the killer in Friday the 13th.
Jason! Jason! Jason!
This is where Craven's experience in horror comes in handy. Most people's fear of horror movies stems from them assuming that characters have no knowledge of the rules that their killers play by.
You should never say who's there. Don't you watch scary movies? It's a death wish. You might as well just come out here to investigate a strange noise or something.
Of course, Craven inverts this trope by giving the character an overall knowledge of how these conventions work and thus flipping audiences' expectations, leaving the viewers to be the vulnerable ones. Scream is simply built around the idea of audience expectation, and you would think that people would apply this to movies that were inspired by Craven's classic. Well, unfortunately not. Not only did Scream spawn many disappointing original films, such as Urban Legend and I Know What You Did Last Summer, but iconic slasher franchises such as Child's Play and Halloween even took a stab at replicating the success of Scream. Where these films flop is that they've either taken too much or too little from what made Scream so great. A film like I Know What You Did Last Summer reverted back to the tropes that Scream aimed to poke fun at, without any of the self-awareness. Contrast this with a more self-referential film like Bride of Chucky, which ditched most of its slasher elements in favor of a comedic tone. The issue with this is a metafilm relies on timing, and since Scream was fresh in people's minds, the metafilm genre was already starting to feel as stale as the genre it was ripping on. For this reason, you could say that a metafilm should stand on its own after an oversaturation of a genre. For every trend, there's always a camp of people looking to make fun of it. Perhaps that's why none of the Scream sequels were as critically successful as the original, or why the meta-horror genre had seemed to die out by the turn of the century. You can look at similar self-aware genre films to see this trend further. Deadpool did it for superhero movies, Hot Fuzz did it for action movies, and Cabin in the Woods had a new take on horror in the 2010s.
Yes, you had zombies, but this is zombie redneck torture families, see? They're entirely separate species.
Deadpool, for example, came at the peak of superhero mania, and only time will tell if its legacy will help the genre grow or face similar faults to that of Scream and further oversaturate the market.
Maximum effort.
If Scream has taught us anything, it's that too much of a good thing is problematic, and that you should be very worried when this guy calls.
Tatum, just get in the car.
Hello, Sydney.
Want more from WatchMojo? Check out other great clips on our YouTube channel, and be sure to take a look at our special feature of the top 100 movie moments of the 90s.